If we don't beat Putin here, let me be clear. Is it Estonia? Is it Lithuania? Whatever we're spending today is a fraction of what we will spend if we don't defeat Putin and Russia in Ukraine.
Democracy is at its best when leaders across the political spectrum pull together and get things done. Today's guest, the Honorable Terry McAuliffe, is central casting for that role. McAuliffe, the former Virginia governor and chairman of the Democrat National Committee, learned from his earliest days what's right and what's not in defense of the nation. And his life story, well, that's one for the ages. From Ballard Studios in Washington, D.C., it's 13th and Park.
We give you information, not a panic attack.
I mean, look what's going on. I mean, my God.
This was it. My kids were gonna die.
That time is gone forever.
This is the biggest story in America.
We weren't prepared for this.
Don't you want to speak truth to power?
Toughest thing I ever had to do.
Well, Governor, welcome to the show, and welcome as well to John O'Hanlon's maiden voyage as a co-host on 13th and Park. Now, I want you to know...
This could launch his career.
It could launch his career.
Yeah.
Could, finally.
Now, he's been practicing, I think, overnight before the mirror, as they say. You know,
With no
fingers
lights
crossed.
on, though.
Yeah. Fingers crossed we're prepared for what's coming at us.
All right, we're ready.
All right, Governor, great to have you here. And Adam, thank you for asking me to do this. 2014, you got elected. You were the 72nd governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yep.
Prominent Democrat.
Yep.
You get sworn in. You got a Republican legislature there. You've got an aggressive agenda, and you passed the majority of it. How were you able to do that? And is there a model that you could suggest for Democrats and Republicans working together here in D.C.?
Yeah, it's a good question. And when I got elected, the Republican legislature was not inclined to work with me at all. But I came in, we had a tough economy, billions of dollars of the previous budget I had to correct and fix. So we sort of got forced together to fix a budget that, I inherited to get the economy back rolling again. So over time, the other big thing, John, what I did is, I loved to entertain. I would invite the legislators over every night to the governor's mansion. And, I personally paid for the booze there, so I got top shelf stuff. I'm the first governor to actually put a kegerator in the mansion and brought in Virginia craft beers, and every night we would open the doors. And, over time, we just sort of built some relationships. And I think they realized at the end of the day, I came from a business background. I wanted to focus on creating jobs. They knew I was going to work my heart out. We ended up creating a record amount of jobs, $20 billion of new capital. I was the most traveled governor in American history, 35 trade missions in 4 years. I went all over the world, recruited businesses back to Virginia. I ended up taking our unemployment rate, took it down by half. We became the number one state in America for business. So I think because of that, working together, I was able to get 70+% of my bills passed. Now, we did not have luck, John. They passed a lot of bills, social bills, taking away a woman's right to choose, which I vetoed every one of those. A lot of anti-gay bills, I vetoed every one of those. So on the social bills, we always had a battle. But listen, our state took off and we became the best state for business, record jobs. I put a record amount into education. I restored more rights of returning citizens than any governor in American history. Republicans, of course, sued me, as you know, went to the Supreme Court of Virginia, and I won, and 206,000 people got the right to vote back. So I ran for governor to get things done. I'd started 25 businesses in my life. I'm a real entrepreneur. I've had huge success. I've had my share of failure. I've had ups and downs, but I just got out of bed swinging for the fences every day, trying to make people's lives better. What can I do to make your life better? I think that's what you want in your governor.
First of all, I'm sad I wasn't given an invitation to be a part of the kegerator party.
Let me tell you, John did enough for you.
We missed you for sure.
He did enough for you.
Going for it and being passionate about going for it has been a part of your life history. Yeah. I mean, you look at your resume, it's exhausting to read, much less having seen you experience some of that. Marathoner, governor, DNC chair, banker.
People look at this body today and say, wait a minute, he ran 18 marathons?
Yeah. Well, I love the story about how you ran the marathon after that all-nighter, and you ended up, I think, in the Bronx hospital or something.
I was drinking with Tip O'Neill in San Francisco. Johnny was on the trip with me doing a fundraiser. At 10 o'clock, the speaker, I'm working with the Speaker O'Neill then, I said, I got to go. And, you don't normally get up a small dinner with the speaker as a young staffer at the DCCC. I said, where are you going? I said, well, I'm running the New York Marathon tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. He literally thought I had 8 heads, took the red eye, landed, and off we went.
Well, you didn't finish that race, but you finished many other races. And
yeah, that's not the one I collapsed in.
Oh, I thought that was the one where
I think I finished that one.
Yeah.
The one was 1984. I remember Mondale.
Right.
I wore a Mondale Ferraro T-shirt,
That's
heavy
right.
cotton, which was the dumbest thing I could do. It had to be 100 degrees that day.
Right.
And I'll never forget it. I'm coming over. I'm at the 18th mile. I've already run 12 marathons, so I didn't really train. And I go over the bridge, and I'm coming down. You take a left to go into Harlem. I didn't go left. I went straight into the crowd, lost all consciousness, took me to Harlem Hospital, and they put you in a big tub of ice, literally a tub of ice. And I came to eventually, got out, and went drinking, had a good time that night.
Yeah. Now, folklore has it that the reason you were so exhausted is you were wearing the Mondale Ferrari shirt. You saw someone with the Reagan Bush shirt trying to pass you, right? That's what it was, right?
That's it.
That wasn't going to happen, right?
Yeah, they had a nice mesh shirt, I had this heavy cotton shirt. I knew that election was doomed right there.
That was a rough one.
Yep.
Governor, going back to 1985 when Al Frum established the DLC, Democratic Leadership Council, it was sort of a platform, if you would, for moderate Democrats to campaign from or to come together, raise money, notoriety, and so forth at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level.
Yep.
If you're thinking like right now, the last 4 Democrats to occupy the White House, let's go back to Jimmy Carter, governor of Georgia, your close friend Bill Clinton, governor of Arkansas, Barack Obama, he governed pretty much on a middle-of-the-road perspective, and now you have Joe Biden, who obviously took the middle road to the White House. We're in a time in the Democratic Party when the progressives are getting a lot of notoriety. How do you see moving forward? What is the track for the Democrats to retain occupancy at 1600 Pennsylvania?
Yeah, and I used to say this all the time. Everybody tries to put people in these boxes. What was I as a governor? I said, oh, he's a moderate, pro-bit. Listen, first of all, I like governors as presidential candidates and presidents. They've actually been executives. I ran a $130 billion biennium budget. I had 150,000 state employees. You get out of bed every day, you're responsible. You got a hurricane, you got whatever, you're responsible. Fix it. No disrespect to Congress, but they can talk and talk and talk and talk. And here we are looking at potential another government shutdown. I mean, really, come on. We can't do that as governors. I have to have a balanced budget. I don't have deficits. I don't print money. You got to get stuff done. So I like governors. But, John, I think what voters want, people say, well, I'm a very pro-business, fiscally conservative, socially progressive individual. I don't know what you call that. I was about jobs every day, creating jobs. I always felt as governor, if I'm providing that Virginia family with an opportunity for their child or their mother or father to get a high-paying job, to take care of their family, that outside of keeping them safe and giving them a great education, by far that was the most important thing. So, sometimes I get labeled that, McAuliffe say pro-business. I'm a pro-jobs Democrat. But I'll take my progressive title up against anybody in this country. As I just told you, I restored more felon rights than any governor in American history. Stopped a 114-year-old racist law in Virginia. They put this in our Constitution, believe it or not, in 1902, that blacks could not vote, or anyone could vote, if you had committed a felony. And the headline in the Richmond paper the next day by Senator Glass was, I'm doing this to eliminate the darky from being a political factor in Virginia. Wow. That lasted for 114 years. I got elected governor. I said, I'm going to help people. I believe in second chances. You show me someone who's never made a mistake, I'll show you a liar. People make mistakes. Give people second chances when they come out of prison. I want them to have a job. I want them to take care of their family. I don't want them to recommit a crime, and then I'm spending $35,000 a year paying for them to get them out, let them feel good, give them second chances. So I did that, right thing. I gave them back the right to vote. I'm the first governor to perform a gay marriage in America after the big ruling. I wanted Virginia to be an open and welcoming state. How do you think I got Amazon to come to Virginia? The biggest job creation in 20, 30 years. I recruited CoStar to come to Richmond, Virginia, thousands of jobs. They were going to North Carolina. I read in the Wall Street Journal, North Carolina just passed a bathroom bill. And this company's going there, really? So I called the CEO out of the blue. I said, I'm the governor of Virginia. You can't go there. You got to come to Virginia. We're open welcoming. And guess what? Thousands of jobs moved to Richmond, Virginia. So what you want as a candidate is someone's going to focus on the individual, providing economic opportunity, great education, giving them health care, and just staying out of their way. Mm-hmm. Government doesn't fix everything. All you can do is set up the framework. And that's why on issues of choice, the government ought to stop telling these women what to do with their bodies.
I'm glad you said government doesn't fix everything.
No.
Yeah, there is that impression some people have that government should step in and step in all the time, but often when they step, they misstep.
Yeah.
Well, it's no secret you've been very, very close to Bill and Hillary Clinton over the years. The 2016 campaign was a near miss for the Secretary of State. She came awfully close. And then a couple of years later, you came awfully close, as reported at least, to considering a run for president yourself before the field came together. What was it that went through your head? I mean, were you nuts? No. What went through your head when you tried to consider the pros and cons of running for president in today's world, which, as you know, can be both brutal as well as compelling?
I don't know if it's Hubert Humphrey or Walter Mondale. One of the old politicians once said, when does a politician stop thinking about running for president? When they're putting the embalming fluid in.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'd finished up as governor, and I got out of office January of 2018. Record amount of jobs, record investment in education, got health care, and all the stuff. And listen, I thought hard. I traveled all over the country in 18. And then in early 19, I went over and had lunch with Joe Biden. I went over to his house and had lunch with the vice president. And Steve Ricchetti was there, who was his was chairman of his campaign or whatever. And we sat. Jill came in and said hello, and we talked about it. And I've known Joe for 40 years. We have a great relationship. John, you mentioned earlier, we're sort of in the same sort of ideological space, more, I guess, in the center, you would say. I don't know I think we're where most people are, I think, in this country. And we had a long talk about it, and he told me something very enlightening. He said, well, Jim Clyburn's going to endorse me. Now, I knew my pathway. I knew it would be hard in Iowa, New Hampshire. I would have to come back and win South Carolina, which I thought, I had a 99% approval of the African-American community. My restoration of right works. I did a lot of things. I took the Confederate flag off the license plate. I banned the box. I did a lot of things that people liked, took executive action to do that. So I felt I had a good shot in South Carolina and then come back and win Virginia, which I had a very good shot of. When the vice president said, if Jim Clyburn's going to endorse in South Carolina, that's important. And so I thought long and hard about that.
You said, you mean the Jim Clyburn?
Yeah, and I love Jim. And,
are you talking about another Clyburn or the Jim Clyburn?
The Jim, yeah.
Right.
And I have a great relationship with him, but I knew that made South Carolina tough. And I have 5 children. All mostly. One of them was adamant against me not doing it. And that, his family's a big part of it. So, I thought long and hard about all of that. And then I thought if I get in and I run, then I'm really going to hurt Biden. I'm going to take votes away from Biden. So I sat and I called the vice president and I said, I'm going to endorse you. And so we talked long and hard about it. And then, they asked me to be one of the chairs of the campaign. I was doing CNN, the
as a contributor.
They had on.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, I get a kick out of this. I mean, people actually pay me to talk.
Isn't that great?
Right. Don't tell CNN, but I would actually pay them. Whatever. We'll leave that alone. But then we decided, it's better for me because I was a chief defender for the vice president for a year, all through the primaries and before that. So it was better for me to stay on TV talking. And then, we did a big event for him in November 19. And then I came out same week as Clyburn and endorsed him. And, the rest is history. But, listen, as a kid who grew up and had to start his first business at 14 to help pay for college, the idea that I was even contemplating running for president, this is a great country. And, I don't have regrets in life. I've had a full, exciting life. I pinched myself. I have had so much fun. I have fun every day. I'm not a half full glass. I'm an overflowing glass of water every day. You just got to have fun. And through politics, I've tried, as John knows, he's been with me for 25 years, and I don't like the politics today of division and hate and spite. And, if you're a Republican, I hate you. You got to forget all that. I come from a place, I try to move your head through motivation to make it fun and to get you excited about a cause. Not what we have today, this division. When I ran for governor in 21, many Republicans endorsed me. Bill Kristol endorsed me. Dave Ramadan, a prominent Republican. I try to get along with everybody. People got to stop this, Game of Thrones of attacking each other constantly every day, because we are the United States of America. We're fighting in Ukraine. We're trying to preserve democracy. We have to be the United States of America. We have divisions here, and that's why I didn't like when Trump did all the January 6th stuff. We're the leading democracy in the world. And let's not make it look like our elections are not legitimate, because they are and are going to be.
Do you think we can fix this division in the country? I mean, you see it in the polls, but you also just feel it. The reticence to have certain conversations with certain people in certain environments, as opposed to the free expression of ideas. Like, give me your best shot. Give me your best idea. Tell me what I might not see yet so I can be more informed and maybe make a better choice.
Yeah. And listen, the rhetoric took off on a new level, obviously, when Trump, and, full disclosure, I've known Trump for 25 years.
Sure.
He was a donor of mine. He was a Democrat his whole life till he started running. I mean, he gave me $25,000 when I ran for governor. How do you like that? But, when he first came down those steps, remember, all Mexicans were rapists and drug dealers, and I'm going to ban Muslims from America, and and those. It was that rhetoric, and I think people said, well, golly, if the president can talk like this, I can too. We just got to get away from all, and I think COVID created just angst, anger, frustration.
No question.
So it was all in that boiling pot. So the more we can continue to show success, keep the economy going, let's beat Putin and Russia, and, I think good news honestly takes temperatures down with everybody. Let's get pride back in America, not this division.
Yeah, Terry, that's a great insight. The things you just went over, what you think about, what keeps you up at night. You mentioned your family, your kids. What's your message, or how does the Democratic Party reach out to engage the youth in America to get them to the polls, but to keep them excited and to have hope and involvement and engagement?
Yeah, and listen, John, that's a good question, because I think for many young people, they don't like seeing this stuff every day. But you think of young people today, they may have been grown up right after 9/11. They saw Iraq, they saw Afghanistan. The economy hasn't been great for them historically. And they're just, I don't know, does this system work? We got to get them back excited. Now, clearly the biggest game changer was in May of 2022 when the Dobbs memo leaked. And then obviously the Supreme Court on the Dobbs decision took away woman's right to make her decision on the choice issues. And if you look at, that saved us in 22. We were supposed to, as you know, historically get slaughtered in the House and Senate.
Right.
And we didn't. And it's shocked. We were supposed to get wiped out in governors. It didn't happen. And if you look at all the exit data, young people and women came out in record numbers. We have had a couple specials in Virginia, which traditionally are very low turnout special election. Democrats have won every one of them. And if you look at the data, young people and women are coming out in record numbers. So I think the idea that they're taking this right away from women, I think, John, has really energized young people. They don't want to hear about this. These states that are passing these 6-week abortion bans, many women don't even know they're pregnant within 6 weeks. I think all of that is creating a volatile mix that is energizing young people.
Does that carry the Democrats in 2024?
Clearly, yes. And the reason why I say it, it's got to be other issues too. We can talk about the economy. We got the unemployment rate now is down to 4%, but it does incentivize young people to vote. I think you're going to see that this year in the Virginia elections, and you're going to see it in 24. But in 22, that was such a game changer, the Dobbs decision.
You've seen the recent press over the issue of immigration and migrants who are now sheltering in some of America's cities, led by Democratic mayors. Eric Adams in New York, even the governor of New York recently, both of them and others are kind of wrestling with a very difficult issue, right, Governor? What do we do to show compassion, but also, you might say, common sense about addressing an issue that is very difficult to figure out?
And listen, I put the blame on the federal government. I put it on Congress for decades, who will not come together in a bipartisan way and have comprehensive immigration reform in this country. There's no reason we should not have it. We have to control our borders. We need to know who's coming into our country. But Congress this is the problem I have. John and I, back in the DCCC days, back with Tip O'Neill, Tip O'Neill would go out and have a beer with Bob Michael, honestly. He'd go out and have a beer with Ronald Reagan. They'd
Play
have
cards.
Huh?
They'd play cards.
They got along. Everybody got along. You can differ. This is the thing that drives. You and I can differ, but that doesn't mean you and I cannot be friends.
No question.
This idea that if you're on the other side and you're wearing the different color shirt, that you're my enemy and I hate you, we got to get past all that. Congress has got to put and listen, you and I could spend all day on this, but I have always been of the theory that redistricting has created this huge problem in our country because legislators draw their own lines, and what they do is they draw lines to keep power. So Democrats draw lines to get Democrats, Republicans to do it. So the only way you can lose an election today if you're in Congress is if you lose a primary. And it pushes people to extremes.
That's in the primaries.
In the primaries, because you're going to win the general.
Exactly.
You've drawn the maps to win the general election.
Right.
And it just pushes people into corners. And we got to get away from that. And listen, I fought as governor. It always bothered me on Medicaid expansion. It was the law of the land, the federal government. And, majority of the states in America had done it. And they called it Obamacare, call it whatever you want. It's the law of the land. I, as governor, our tax money goes to Washington, D.C. I get 100% back. Okay? $4 billion a year I could bring back to Virginia. I could create 65,000 new jobs. Most importantly, I could get 435,000 people health care who were paying for them.
Yeah.
But the Republicans wouldn't bring the money back. I, as governor, love job creation. I mean, that's what I live for. You need a healthy workforce. So if you're a company, Amazon, you want to come to Virginia where they don't have health care for 500,000 people, or you want to go next door where they have it. You want to go to Maryland where they actually have it. That's a healthier workforce because it saves the company health care costs. As a business person, this is just common sense.
Yeah.
Give me back $4 billion. And at my little entertainment at the mansion, I'd have Republicans come up to me, "Oh, Governor, you got to pass it." Mostly the rural members. You got to, because, in the rural where they really needed it, I need it for my constituents. I said, well, vote for it. Oh, yeah. I can't. Why not?
Yeah,
I will lose a Republican primary if I vote for Obamacare. And, you got a primary in a House of Delegates seat in Virginia, 10,000 people vote. That's the problem we have in this country today.
Sometimes you have to see something, Governor, to understand it, right?
Yeah.
So in this past spring,
Yeah.
you went to Ukraine and saw for yourself. We're going to play you a clip, actually, showing a report from Ukraine.
Yeah.
I want to get your reaction to that.
Okay.
And to the question, what is it you learned over there that Americans, if they understood, might possibly feel differently about their commitment to doing what's right for Ukraine?
You bet.
Cue clip.
And back to the war in Ukraine. Let's go to correspondent Mary McAuliffe. She joins us live from the Donetsk region.
Officials coming from within Ukraine, there seems to be a general sense that Bakhmut itself is lost, but that nevertheless, the battle for Bakhmut is not over, and we know many units remain in this area. Many soldiers have remained with the task of defending Bakhmut, even though very little actually remains of the city, which once held 80,000 people. Now it is almost a complete wasteland.
Man, you have got to love that reporter.
I love that report. Who is that?
So that's my daughter, Mary. She's been a war correspondent over in Ukraine. She's lived on the front lines for about 4 months. She had been a television journalist in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv for 4 years. And I went over on one trip with her over to the Ukraine. But to see your daughter over there in the war zone on the front line, I was very proud of her.
That's obvious to see.
Yeah.
What can you tell us from your visit, from talking with Mary, what the average American doesn't understand or is not grasping about the importance of
Let me first, and I'm very vocal on this, we have to win this. We are the greatest democracy in the world. We are the true superpower in the world. With that, John, comes a responsibility. Here you have a fledgling democracy who has been invaded. Okay? Now, either the United States of America and her allies either stand up to defend a fledgling democracy, or we should give up the title of being a superpower. We have a responsibility, and all these people I don't get it. So I went over. I was invited over to talk to all the ministers because all you Virginians listening, as you know, I did a record amount of infrastructure investments. I redid 66, 95. I added 18 miles. The HOV, I took it all the way to the Pentagon. Redid our rail program. So, they're talking about reconstruction. So I went over and met with all the ministers about how they rebuild Ukraine. But, John, you know my personality well. Presidential order, you're not supposed to, I think it's 5 miles, you can't go outside the embassy. Of course, the president doesn't want any American killed. Fine. That's just not my personality. If I'm in Ukraine, I want to talk infrastructure. I want to know what's happening with the war. So I had some friends who were going to the front line delivering different things. And I said, I'm coming. And so I went up and we spent 2-3 days right on the front line. I went right into the bunkers with the command. I was the first American to ever go. And it was fascinating for me. So I remember the first place they take me, it's out in a field. I said, why am I out here in the middle of the field? And sure enough, they pull up plywood and there's a whole tunnel of all these command centers underneath with TVs. They were doing a strike on a Russian tank while I was there, and I got to watch that as the drone IDs it, and then they send in the artillery fire. But the thing that I took away, John, most importantly, this is their homeland. These people are going to fight to their death. They are so passionate. I went to an orphanage where all of these children had lost their parents. They had lost their homes. There's a thing called Ukraine Saves. Any of you, please listening, go Google it. They have built schools. They have built housing. They're running rescue operations, one of the greatest charities I've ever seen. I can't say enough good things about them. But listen, this is a fight for our future. This is a fight for democracy, and I give President Biden credit. He's brought NATO back together, and we are strong again. If we don't beat Putin here, let me be clear. Is it Estonia? Is it Lithuania? Where's next? Whatever we're spending today is a fraction of what we will spend if we don't defeat Putin and Russia in Ukraine.
And that's your message, right, to people that would ask you, Governor, why is this our fight? We have so many things we need to do here in this country. It's one of the pushbacks. One of the reasons that people say, it's costing a lot of money, and we could use that money more productively on taking care of our own. You're saying to us today, it is our fight. And it is our fight on the biggest of grounds in terms of not just democracy, but at some point, I guess you draw the line, right? And if you don't draw the line, those you're not drawing the line against continue to step over it.
How proud is every American that we're the greatest nation on earth, right? I mean, we see it. You look at July 4th, the barbecues, the flags, and everybody, this is about America. That has a responsibility to it. We have got to keep our foot to the pedal to protect democracy around the world.
Well, your passion, again, is obvious. And in your book, a New York Times bestseller, What a Party.
Yep.
Great insight to you, Terry McAuliffe, the person, where you're from, what you're about, what makes you tick. I think it was back in 2010, I saw a picture of you with President Clinton, Mick Jagger.
World Cup.
That's impressive.
Mandela at the World Cup.
Yeah.
So you've been through a lot of really cool experiences.
We were also over there for Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday party. So President Clinton and I went over. I have a lot of great pictures I've accumulated. My favorite picture is going overseas. If you ask me who stands out for me of everybody, it's Nelson Mandela. 25 years of hard labor, and he comes out a happy warrior and hires his former prison guards as his presidential security detail. I mean, how many people do that?
That is beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. It's a message for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
So, Governor, we couldn't close out this interview, which I don't want to end, frankly, without showing you a clip that reminds us that in another life, another Terry McAuliffe, as much as you've been aggressively going after issues and problems on behalf of citizens, you went after something else at this moment in your life, and it stood the test of time as a memory that very few of us can ever forget. Cue clip.
Of all the candidates running, how many have actually wrestled in 280-pound, 8-foot alligator for a political contribution for $15,000? How many? I'm your man, folks. Nobody else can do it. If I can wrestle an alligator, I can sure as hell wrestle Donald Trump, boy, and that would be worth it. And you'd pay money to watch that debate.
Now, do you think if you issued a challenge to the former president to try to do what I've done and wrestle the alligator? By the way, as you saw, John, first of all, why are you wrestling an alligator? Secondly, dressed in the suit. That was awesome. And Chairman Chief Billy of the Seminole Tribe, awesome guy. Just incredible. So if you were to issue the challenge to the former president, do you think he'd accept? Do you think he'd get in the ring with you or with Jumper, the name of that alligator, and go at it?
I don't think he would do that. I don't see that. As I say, I've known Trump forever, had been a donor. You know, Trump used to say I was the best governor in America before he started running for president. So I don't know, you know, but actually you should know that I wrestled that in 1980. Actually had gym clothes on when I actually wrestled it for 3 minutes in a pit.
Right.
That was Life magazine 6 years later who did a story. I went back down. Jumper was still alive. Jim Billy's still alive. And I'll never forget it. The Life magazine photographer kept saying, get closer, kept closer. The alligator got a little angry and and the Life photographer jumped over the fence and did not come back in.
Yeah.
But I got $15,000 for back then for President Carter. And, you know, I remember I'd raised, as we finish up, I raised a lot of money from the Seminole Indian tribe. This is 1980. I'm a young fundraiser for the president. And I went back for one more donation. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. I've given you enough. And you listen, if you're in fundraising, no means yes. You got to go back at it.
Right.
He finally said, all right, Terry, I'll do it if you take part in an ancient tribal custom thing. He said, I want you to wrestle an alligator. I said, what? I said, I'm from Syracuse, New York. The worst thing I've ever seen is a squirrel. What? He said, oh, it'll be drugged and toothless. I said,
Right.
oh,
Okay, that's a different ballgame, right? Right.
all right. Well, fast forward, my big mouth got me in trouble. Everybody knew I was wrestling this alligator. The president of the United States of America calls me, who I didn't know. I worked for him, but I didn't know. And, oh, Terry, you can't do this. Put your life in. Oh, I didn't tell him it was drugged. I said, oh, Mr. President, don't worry about blah, blah, blah. Next day, Mondale calls. Good luck. And anyways, the big day comes, and unfortunately, this thing got out of hand. Time magazine, Life magazine, all the local TV channels show up. They do it like every third Saturday, and they charge admission. So Chief Billy says, whoa, whoa, whoa. All this press is here. You either do it the real way or we can't do it at all. Now I've got myself in a box. Everybody in the world knows I'm doing this. So I say to the chief, tell me how to do it. We spent an hour in his office. He shows me how you wrestle it. And for all you viewers here, the key is they bring it out, big pickup truck, burlap sack on its head. They put it down. You get on top. You get your knees on the ground right behind its two front legs. That's the key. You got to stay solid. And then they bring
I can
them
see
up.
you recreating the whole scene in front of us.
You're
Right,
ready
like
to
you're
go.
getting ready to get.
But you got to remember the tail can snap your vertebrae in half.
Yeah.
You got to watch the tail. So this whole time, and then they take the burlap and you say, ready, and they cut the rope, and then you hang on for 3 minutes, and he's trying to knock you down. You know, they won't go after you but you're on his back, he'll go after you. So I did it for 3 minutes. Chief Billy comes over my back, picks him up and I jump off the back, got the $15,000, went out and had a couple of beers and had a great night.
Well, Governor, first of all, we're thankful you survived that.
Thank you.
For $15,000, that's nuts. Number two is, I think both of us applaud your outreach in terms of trying to pull the country together, trying to find a way for Americans not only to be civil with each other, but to be one with each other. You know, something I think we missed for a very, very long time. Your message, I think, on Ukraine is very important. I think Congress needs to revisit that. And frankly, your life story, which again is an exhausting read. Just exhausting.
A great one,
go through
though.
what you've
Great
done.
But you know what the key is?
No.
I've always had fun.
There you go.
You got to have fun in life and motivate people to have, enjoy life. There's too many lemon suckers in politics.
Of all the descriptors of you, Governor, I don't think that's been one that's ever been used to describe.
Yep, no.
Well, you know, they say time flies when you're having fun. You've been at it for almost
Yeah.
a half a century,
Yeah.
right?
You actually started in politics in 1979. Think of that.
Governor, we know you're not on the political playing field right now. I think America wishes you were, because you still have so much to offer. And I know that the wallflower that you are, that this will not be the last.
No, there's a
we
couple
hear
more
from you.
chapters left. I'm just warming up. I feel better than I've ever felt.
I think that just freaked out Jumper, the alligator.
Harry, who you just saw, I want you to know.
Right.
Johnny's goddaughter just got engaged last week.
Very exciting.
I've just had 2 of my 5 get married in the last year. I got my 3rd one. So to my 2 children married, let's get going. I need some grandkids. Let's go.
The world needs some more McAuliffes, that's for sure.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Governor, great to be
Enjoyed
with
it,
you.
everybody. Thanks, Johnny.
Governor,
See you.
always
You
the
bet.
best.
Remember to subscribe today and hit the bell so you never miss another episode of the show with that trademark opener from Washington, D.C. It's 13th and Park.